I'm Bryce.
I'm Brian.
I'm Sandra.
And I'm Katie.
And last time we did a little discussion about the Educate to Innovate initiative that President Obama launched in November of 2009. And since then, we've actually been able to talk to a few different teachers. One high school teacher who teaches at a local high school that we're at. She teaches things like AP Physics and integrated chemistry and physics and things like that. And she's had some experience teaching math courses and other courses like that. And so we had the opportunity to talk to her about how things have been different ever since this project, or ever since this Educate to Innovate initiative came about, and what kind of things that she's been seeing in terms of administrative roles, and things like that. So I'll do a little introduction right now about just kind of some of the things that she was talking about. One of the things that I asked her about and that I made sure to know is, has she noticed any kind of administrative changes ever since this Educate to Innovate had really been able to take into effect? Because she's been teaching for several years now, and she's seen all kinds of different big initiatives that were supposed to change the world. And so it was interesting to see that she actually, before she responded to anything that I said, she had to look up what Educate to Innovate was. She actually had no idea what this initiative was. She didn't know about it. And that kind of leads into the idea that if this has, she as a ground level teacher, somebody who's right in the front lines, if she's not hearing anything or really understanding exactly what it is, how can we be expected, or how can she be expected to make a difference or make something like that happen? Even then, one of the biggest changes that she had actually noticed certain changes in terms of how STEM departments have been run over the past few years, but most of those changes actually came from the private sector. Things like Science Express is a program here in northern central Indiana where science teachers all over the state get to use different materials that they wouldn't normally have access to, all for free. And she said that's been an excellent thing that's come about. Other things was straight from the University of Purdue, where outreach programs that they've been able to work with have been able to help science teachers where she works develop better curriculum and better lessons to try to help people like that. And so we talked a little bit last time about how President Obama wanted to help the private sector out and get the private sector involved in STEM education. And to an effect, I guess that kind of has worked a little bit, maybe, just because of, this is all private sector stuff, all the changes that she's been noticing. But has it really been that much of a difference, and has this come straight from Educate to Innovate? Probably not, really.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that the teacher that you interviewed said that she saw an increase in enrollment in other subjects. Can you explain why that happened? Why she thinks that happened?
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to make sure and ask was whether or not there was a difference in enrollment in things like language and the arts programs and things like that. And she made a very good point that she hadn't actually seen any kind of decrease in language arts, music, non-science, non-math disciplines, and she actually saw the opposite, where students were choosing these courses and trying to actively avoid science and technology and STEM courses. And the reason that she said that she was doing that is because there's a different level of work, participation, and performance between being in a music show and performing well on a laboratory project, which I think makes total sense. Whenever I have dreams of doing something great, it's being in a band and playing some giant rock venue. It's not winning a Nobel Prize.
And I also think maybe to make these students choose more of the math STEM fields, if it was maybe introduced at a younger age so that the students could get more comfortable with it, because I feel like STEM topics, maybe math and science are at earlier ages, but about like, technology, engineering, that's not really introduced until students are a little older. So I feel like maybe some of them feel like they're being thrown into it and they're not very comfortable with it yet. So maybe if these were introduced to students at a younger age, they would feel more comfortable and they would start choosing those areas instead of always going to the language arts and that, because it seems like an easier concept.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's also a lot of things teachers can do, like with working interdisciplinary with different departments. So say a physics teacher can group up with an English teacher and have them, like, you know, early high schoolers work on writing lab reports, stuff like that. So they're not just trying to focus like on isolating the subject. So that can be worrisome where if a student thinks only physics is useful in a physics classroom, showing them how you can apply it to other subjects and how those skills are transferred.
Also with formative assessment, I think that I actually talked to a teaching assistant here at Purdue that teaches math, and in order to ensure that this Educate to Innovate is working and that students are understanding what's being presented to them, she says that a few ways that she does this is by giving quizzes every class to ensure, because students can get A+ on the homework. That doesn't mean they really understand what they're doing. They could just fly through it. But with quizzes, you can ensure that students are actually learning the material. Also asking questions in class and having students answer those and being able to see that they know these things, that also is a good way for formative assessment to make sure that students are effectively being taught the material that's something.
Interesting. I was actually having a discussion with a couple of professors a few days ago, and we were talking about how we can change the way that we test students to try to see if we can get them more involved in the actual thinking aspect instead of just worrying about getting the right answer. And so, you know, there's definitely a lot of discussion going on about how we can change that type of formative assessment and see if we can get students more involved or more deep into what they want, or into how we can do these things. So
and I agree that I think it would be a lot more effective if, like you said, they were worried more about learning the information rather than getting the grade, because I know a lot of tests now, like my personal experience, when I take tests, they're just multiple choice Scantron tests, and I'm more worried about the grade and having a good GPA rather than learning, like, okay, this is how you do this concept, this relates to the real world in this way, and how I can apply it in that way. And I think a lot of students have that mindset now. So yeah, I agree with, like, teachers should start thinking about ways to test their students where they have more understanding on the actual material rather than just getting a grade.
And I know there's a couple different ways of doing that. This is kind of off topic, but it's pretty cool, where certain multiple choice tests that we were talking about using have, like if you have one way of doing things and you mix up a sign in a math problem, that leads to a different answer, and that answer actually gets you half credit on that multiple choice test if you choose that answer. So you lose points because you did make that mistake, but you also get a little bit back because you did most of it right, and then, you know, a little bit less if you use, you know, the right concept but you don't quite use it in the right way. You get like 25% of the points or something, but if you do it right, you get all the points. And so it's really interesting.
Yeah, that is kind of weird, because I feel like a lot of times multiple choice questions are used to like bait a student to pick a certain answer, because they know a lot of people do the weird negative thing, and so they put that answer in there and then you get no credit for it. So it's kind of cool that they're using multiple choice in a different way other than to trick students into picking their own answer.
All right, so there we go. A lot of good information that we got from a couple different types of teachers. a couple professors here at Purdue and TAs and things like that, and then some actual high school teachers who she identified herself as that ground level teacher to really get students involved. And so a lot of really good and interesting information going on there.